Hello everyone, this is Shan and welcome to the Brain Cage podcast. We are here because we sense the urgency of healing, growth, and change. Our goal with this company and podcast is to bring you tools and inspiration so we together can create a flourishing world both inwardly and outwardly for ourselves and generations to come. Joining me today for this exploration is Dr. Santosh Gupta, a scientific researcher, an author, and a student of Vedanta who is here to bridge the gap between science and spirituality, which are more often than not are considered opposite in nature. This is fascinating stuff, lots and lots of eye openers, key insights, and methods which can be applied immediately. I wish you well and enjoy the conversation. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. Yes.
And this is gonna be one of the most fascinating conversation because I've talked to many people who come from this scientific background and many who come from a spiritual background, but you are this unique personality who can see the world from these both perspectives at the same time. You're kind of a wizard, I would say. So I'm so excited and to go down this rabbit hole with you, and let's see where it goes. I wanted to start this conversation with exploring the role of science and spirituality in life, specifically in your life. How your journey been with these two concepts or perspectives?
Yes. Yes. So first of all, thank you, Shan. I must really thank you for giving this opportunity. And I have seen your podcasts and your videos on Instagram and other places, and they're really good.
Yeah.
So do keep it up. And this is what I feel humanity needs now. And
Thank you.
you
I
will see
really
in the
appreciate that.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, in the conversation as we go ahead, why this is so important. Yeah, so first of all, I am like just another person who is trying to explore life. I feel that it's just like some opportunities that I got, some, I would say the grace of some that, the super or that energy which is there, which is taking care of the entire universe. So some grace because of that, I had opportunities to study and learn the spiritual aspect from very amazing masters or teachers or guides, I would say, from last like more than 20 years. So my journey, basically, I am just like, any other Indian who is born and brought up with all the different things which happen from childhood, from struggles in the family, and at the same time, you keep seeing there's a temple at home, small, where rituals are done. There are so many occasions where pujas happen and different things happen, which is very common. So that's how I've been brought up, and somehow as I grew from childhood, I could never connect to these things, and my interest has always been science. So in that, I had this yearning to become a doctor. I don't know why, again, from childhood. So I strived and very hard to get that marks, because family situation was such that they could not afford to put me in a capitation, college, because colleges are very expensive, especially medical colleges. So I had to really be on the top to see that I get that marks so that I can enter into a medical college. And science being the passion, I studied that. Now, while all this was happening, there was also curiosity which began, in fact, I would say very early age. I still remember, I think I must be 6, 7 years of age when my grandfather passed away. So, my grandfather, I was not like very attached, but somehow I used to connect to him. He used to make me read, he could not see well. And he
Okay.
used to make me read Bhagavad Gita or some texts. And I was very good in reading and writing from very early age. So I used to read for him. And he used to cry whenever I would read from Bhagavad Gita something. I used to wonder why is
Okay.
he crying, because I could not follow.
Wow.
Yeah. And so when I was around 7, 8 years of age, suddenly he passed away. And that is a time I suddenly, something shook within me. Okay, what is the meaning of death? Because I first encountered that death so closely. So that began the question of what life means. And then as I started growing, I used to see people struggling in family. There was always there's a struggle to grow, and there were a lot of things which happened with your friends, colleagues. And in medical college, it was a whole new life completely, where you see people, patients, and death in a very different way.
Hmm.
So
Right.
all this brought a curiosity what like life means. Does life just mean that you have to struggle to get into a whatever vocation that you want to do,
Hmm.
education, get good college. And during my time, it was always being a doctor or engineer or some those kind of profession. Now of course things have changed, so which is very good. But then everybody would struggle to be in like these three four things only. And there was competition. So again, all these things are even there now also. But in all this, I would wonder that at the end of the day, like there are time come and you just die, you just leave everything. So is
Hmm.
that what life means? That is where my curiosity began. That is where I used to wonder. And I would say again around 19 or 20 years back, I would say, I was invited for a talk of Bhagavad Gita by a teacher who was speaking in English.
Yeah.
And I didn't go. My friend invited me that you should come and attend. It's like evening, for 2 hours after you
Hmm.
finish your work. I was just finishing my MD that time. And this it's so strange that a friend of mine, I still like really am thankful to that friend that he tricked me. He said, we'll go out for dinner, let's go for this lecture first. So
That's
that's how
what
I
when
went for
friends do.
yeah, they trick you, yeah. So it's a very good trick that he did. And I
Yeah.
yeah, first time I understood when I heard that lecture of Bhagavad
Hmm.
Gita, where very scientific I felt, to the
Hmm.
point. And that made me very curious to know more about it. And all my those doubts and questions, is this life just what we see? Is there
Huh.
something beyond? All
What
those
what type
things.
of, like, I'm curious, like what type of you talk about questions? What type of questions those were, like what were those questions? Can you give few examples?
Yes, yes. So one question was very important is what happens after death?
Hmm.
My thing was that is our journey.
Yeah.
This happened because that when that first thing happened when my grandfather passed away. So I was like, does death mean the end of one's life, or is there something beyond? I used to wonder that, and it was a very childish curiosity. It was not like something very deep, but then it became deep over a period of time. And also all of us go through, some issues in relationships, in
Right.
your work, in your education. So when those things I used to see in my own life and others'
Hmm.
life, and I used to see people are not really happy. They are like working so hard, but
Hmm.
nobody is happy. If you see, everybody is struggling, but then
Ah.
they are all doing something where they are struggling, but at the end of the day, they are not happy and satiated. It's like you get one thing, another thing comes.
Yeah.
So I have seen in my own life, like, we wanted a house which had another extra bedroom. And then we were like, oh, now we want another bedroom because we were like five brothers and sisters. And
Hmm.
then we wanted to have, then when I got a job, I wanted to have a car, and that car, then you want a bigger car. So
Ah.
it's like
An
an
endless
ongoing
chase.
endless chase
Yeah.
to get a job. And then again, you keep wanting to earn more and more. So I used to keep thinking that, is this what life is about? And a very crucial thing, since you're asking me this question, was that whatever you get at the end of that, that one chase, you feel happy for some time. You feel very happy. Like, for example, if you want to buy a new car, you take a loan, or if you have money, you go out outrightly and buy. You feel very happy for some time. But after that, some time, you're back to square one. You see, your internal state is
Why
back to
is
chasing.
so? Yeah, I've also noticed this. Like, why is so?
Yeah. Yeah. So this I got the answer in spirituality. So
Okay.
the answer is like very clear. We are actually chasing, to tell the right correct answer to the point, is we are actually looking for uh, happiness or
Hmm.
bliss which is way beyond what the world can give.
Hmm.
um, it's like in
Okay.
Vedanta it is called infinitesimal happiness and bliss.
Okay.
So the entire journey of the soul is to actually experience, truly experience that energy of that supreme. The,
Hmm.
you can call it divine, you can call it a supreme power, you can call it your own, higher sacred self. So we are actually looking for that bliss. So in my journey now, where I have finally understood, it is actually looking for an experience of that divine love, an unconditional love,
Hmm.
right? So basically, peace, happiness, bliss. So if you see, we keep chasing, and when we get something, we feel happy for some time. Then we are
Hmm.
chasing another thing. Then we feel happy for some time. So in that chase, now this is true for everyone. It could be even a negative person who's doing negative thing. He
Hmm.
or she gets happiness by doing that negative thing, and once it is done, then is chasing something else, right? So everybody is so we are actually chasing the highest. That's the innate intense desire of our soul, to
Hmm.
eventually merge or to experience the highest. So I can give you a simple example which will
Hmm.
help. Small child, very small children, they, when they're hungry,
Hmm.
they cry, okay, out of hunger. Now, a lot of times, if you have noticed, the mother will try to give food, but the child will not take the food and will keep crying. So the
Hmm.
child does not know what exactly it is crying for. It just cries. It does not know that actually he or she is hungry.
Hmm.
It may be wanting something else. But the mother knows that the child needs food. The moment the food is given,
Hmm.
after some time, the child will keep quiet. Right.
Yeah.
So in the same way, to give a simple this understanding that we are actually looking for that infinitesimal love,
Hmm.
bliss, happiness, the actual truth we are searching. And somewhere we don't know. So what we do is we chase the world. We think that, okay, if I get a relationship, I will get that complete happiness. If I get this object, I'll be getting happiness. If I get this job, I will be completely happy. Yes,
Hmm.
you will get happiness, but then it will have a
It
limitation.
will fade away. It will be just what they call this hedonic treadmill, and you'll have
Yeah.
to keep on running on that treadmill if you want that pleasure, and you'll have to constantly get that right. Even when the moment you feel fulfillment and it goes away, and what you're saying is what you actually need is this permanent sustainable kind of fulfillment, right? That's a sense of freedom, what I call it, this connection, you want to call with it with divine or whatnot. I don't like to use those words because I think like it's like many people misinterpret that. They think we are talking about some deity or something like that. What I like, the best word I found is infinite intelligence, like this intelligence which is infinite in nature, which is running the whole universe. So we kind of like, I get what you're saying, like we kind of searching for this sense of freedom, and we are looking at everywhere, but we don't find it. So have you found it?
That is the most beautiful thing, that yes, I have experienced it.
Hmm.
It is not sustained 24 by 7, which is what my efforts are now, with
Hmm.
the grace of my
Hmm.
guide who I'm currently following.
So let's
And
carry on like
therefore,
with your story. Let's not jump, right? You went there and you explored like this. You saw that parallel with Gita and science, and what went on from there? Like,
yeah. Yeah. So what happened is, see, once I started understanding the knowledge path, which is
yeah.
the path of, so basic, the foundation of the teaching where I learned for 12 years
Hmm.
was Vedanta. Okay, Vedanta is a part of
Okay.
Vedic texts called Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. These are similar texts, which are similar knowledge based texts. And this gives the like the ultimate knowledge of what life is.
Hmm.
In fact, I feel all the psychology students should read these texts because it gives
Uh-huh.
the truth of
Why
life.
so?
It gives actual truth. So otherwise, beating around the bush. I'm like telling, I'm a doctor myself, and I have
Yeah.
tried to learn psychology and during our, psychiatry during our MBBS time, and we have done some research. So I went into the depth of it. So science, of course, is amazing, but
Hmm.
somehow there is a limitation, and that limitation is covered with the spiritual aspect. So we will dig into this point later, but
Definitely.
from the point which you
That's
are
the
asking.
most fun part.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, yeah. So this part of what I started studying the texts, the Vedic texts, the Upanishads, as a student, like how a medical student
Hmm.
or engineering student, or you do your graphic designing,
Yeah.
whatever, you have to study it. It's not like then you open a book one fine day and you read it and leave it. You have
Right,
to do
right.
it consistently. So for me, it was like would call myself a bookworm because I had to study to get those marks eventually. Because as I said, I did not have a somebody who would put me into the college with money. I had to get my
Hmm.
own marks. So I used to be a bookworm, and I kept that nature or continued that during my study of the Vedantic texts also, which fortunately helped. But at the same time, when you don't know so much, which I can tell looking back, is that you develop an ego. So that is
Hmm.
what I saw. I kind of felt, oh wow,
Hmm.
I know everything about life. I know why people behave in this way. I know what the final truth of the life is, where I will
Hmm.
want to reach someday. But
Yeah.
you feel that you are there, you are superior, you are above others.
Right.
Kind of an identity, another identity is created,
Hmm.
which is actually now that I know, looking back, it's a, spiritual ego, which is a very dangerous thing
Spiritual
in
ego.
ego.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's a
spiritual
very
people also have ego.
yes. So it is a ego of knowing spiritual aspect of yourself,
I
and that
got
is
it. In a knowledge form.
in a knowledge form
Hmm.
exactly, and that is very dangerous because if a person is completely, say, atheist, for
Okay.
them to discover the supreme intelligence, the
Hmm.
term which I use often is supreme intelligence,
Ah.
is easier. But a person who is already feels that I know, the moment you claim that you are stuck there. It's very difficult for even a guide to
Hmm.
then help.
Right, right, right.
So I was in that state or
Ah.
that kind of an experience that I know everything, and
Yeah.
I was invested so many years. But then also I internally knew. So the same Vedic texts also help you to understand and tell you that you need to experience. You need to be surrender, have the surrender. You need to be in gratitude. You need to be open to learn things,
Hmm.
which constantly we were taught to remind ourselves. And I also reminded myself that I should not develop this
Hmm.
spiritual ego. I should, so all this thing is there, but strangely, it is still there. When you tell, you still have it because the knowledge is such, it's such a powerful knowledge. So with that, I got invited for a program which was happening near Mumbai in Karjat, where the current guide Dada Shreji, he was giving a talk. There was a 2-day course, so he was taking the sessions, and I very reluctantly actually went. So for me, it was like, oh, go and listen to somebody where I'm already listening to somebody and
Hmm.
trying to read, and I'm not able to apply it in my life because to apply those principles, it is not easy in life.
Hmm.
So I knew where my lackings are. Now, why should I go to another person who will teach me
Ah,
something
right.
different? So I was very, very reluctant. So with that reluctance, I went, and I still remember it was the January 2013, where very amazingly that moment came. That was today in the 2 days thing. I remember in the night it happened where we got to meet him one to one. In that 3 minutes, he just met for 3 minutes, and something happened within me. Some things changed. I have no idea. I don't know what to describe. Where a lot of things which I read in Vedic texts, I could just see that he is that person who is in that experience.
Hmm.
So I always was on the lookout, because all the texts, if you see whether it is Quran or whether it is Bible or whether it is any spiritual ancient text, if you see, they all will describe the state of that person who is in that state of oneness with everyone.
mm,
So I was actually looking for that maybe I should meet somebody who is in that state. So uh, I could, it's just difficult to explain. Just, I mean, I
yeah,
don't have words. Yeah, to just be in his presence, what that was, that feeling.
yeah,
And with this, yeah, something he did which made a 360-degree turn to my life. In fact, to tell you funnily, after I came back, the scientific mind, I actually used to think that he's hypnotized me.
oh,
Because I used
nice.
to actually be in a very profound, beautiful state. I used to be in tears of
Mm,
happiness, every day. And then I used to wonder what is happening to me. So I actually used to think that, maybe he's done something which is, but then it went on. It went on for like 6 months. So
mm,
anybody, I mean, in science, we know nobody can hypnotize you for 6 months. So then I knew that it is his grace, and that's how the experiences started. So that's been the journey. And now, like, I whatever I have experienced, my aim is that I should help as many people to experience that.
yeah. Let's talk about this. Like, first, I need to apologize to the listener. You're gonna listen, like, hear these two words, science and spirituality, again and again in this whole podcast. So, my question is like, when we think about science and when we think about spirituality, so like in a layman's person or person who is a layman like me, so there is often this contradiction between the two, right? It says, we often think like it says something else, and science is totally opposing that point of view, right? What spirituality is saying. So, and we meet then someone like you who comes from this scientific background, and he then went on exploring all these things. So this thing with contradiction in between these two, and then the perspective you bring, this convergence, right? So how we can ourselves explore these two subjects in a similar way like you did?
Yeah, so it's a very good question, and in fact, that is how my journey started of exploring spirituality in a scientific way,
Mm,
from like day one, in fact. So see, very simple. Science, no doubt, is like a very foolproof method which has created so many wonders in our life, isn't it? Like
yeah.
today we are having this conversation where you are sitting in a different place, I'm sitting in a different place, such with such clarity. It's all because of science, right?
Mm,
Science has enabled all the luxuries that we have. Science has enabled so many, as a medical person, so many diseases which were incurable to
mm,
get cured. COVID-19 pandemic, you see, vaccine has come, and there are many, many things.
right.
We have reached the moon, and soon we will also possibly reach the Mars, right?
Yeah.
It's all the invention of science. So science is something which is very foolproof, very evidence based, and so you if you have certain concept, you prove it, and that's how science works. Or you provide an evidence, and then you repeat that thing again and again and experiment with those things,
Mm,
which is what science is. Now, if you see what science is doing, is actually exploring things which are in the outer world, what you are able to um, uh, see, hear,
mm,
feel, your senses basically, right? And your mind, what your mind can conceive or imagine. That is what science is actually something which is exploring the outer world. Maybe to some extent in medical science, you go into psychology, you go into mental health, a
yeah.
little bit you go deep. But there is a limitation. The reason why I'm saying is that the whole thing of spirituality is to explore something which is within your
Mm,
inner world, right? So in science, you're exploring the outer world, which you are able to actually through your mind. conceptualize and see, right? Which you
Okay.
have proofs. In spirituality, you're exploring your inner world. You're exploring
Hmm.
something which is within. So if you see, both are doing same thing, right?
Hmm. Right. Yeah, in their own
In
way.
that sense, both are very similar. The problem comes, or where the contradiction comes, is that because we need proofs, right? In science, we require tools. So, for example, I will we will talk about it. Like we did a research on if you do a meditation or if you're doing
Hmm.
some spiritual thing, what happens in your brain.
Yeah.
So you require tools to prove. And believe me, when we were trying to look for tools, it is very difficult to have tools of what you are experiencing.
Hmm.
And in today's day and age, with the best equipments of functional MRI, connectivity, electroencephalography, EEG, what is called,
Yeah.
these all things are just they touch the superficial part of what your inner world is.
Right.
Right? So that is something where science fails to have tools to
Hmm.
actually provide evidence of what your experiences are. That's the limitation. But if you see, everything in spirituality, I would say, is as scientific as it can be.
Hmm.
Where I try to dig into it. So, for example, let's take an example where science has a limitation. For example, if I ask you, do you love someone? Right? So say you, very simple, you love your mother, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I tell you that, give me a proof or give me a any tool which will give how much percentage you love your mother. So there is no tool as such, right? But you know from within that you love. Now that
Yeah.
experience of that love, there is
Hmm.
no creation in the world of science to
Hmm.
prove that. In the same way, in spiritual, when I'm saying that I'm feeling very blissful, I'm feeling very calm, peaceful, there is no tool which is going to prove that. So there are indirect methods, like you take your heart rate, you take your blood pressure, you take your ECG, and so on and so forth. Or you can do your brain EEG and see how, during the stress what happens. So these are indirect methods which are very, very superficial.
Yeah.
So these are certain things which science now is coming up with different things. And believe me, if you see the internet, you will find a huge amount of experiments being done
Hmm.
in the realm of spirituality, and a lot of things are very exciting, very foolproof. Unfortunately, we just negate, like, especially, I mean, I feel sorry because many younger generation, they, oh, this is like, nonsense. No, before you
Right.
tell something is nonsense, think about it.
I myself have uh, done that, and that's because of a lot of shallow beliefs, superficial beliefs, and superstitiousness have been involved when it comes to spirituality. Like just believing something because some kind of guru or some person who's sitting on a pedestal is saying that, not examining, not understanding that thing from a experiential point of view. And that's where I find this whole collaboration of science and spirituality very valuable, because as I understand, like in earlier times science wasn't that much developed in its approach, but now as a humanity we have come onto this point when using science we can examine what's written in Gita or what's written in Vedanta, and we can then find these parallels between the two, right? And we
Yes.
can just distill like from what they call shit from sugar, right? We can say, okay, using science as a tool. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so very good point. So see, there is what you're telling is something called as blind faith. So to have a blind faith is something which is definitely wrong. In fact,
Hmm.
I would say a good spiritual master or a guide will encourage questioning, right? Will
Exactly, like
encourage.
this is the one of the major point you have raised. Like when I was thinking about having this conversation with you, I was like, when you think about these two subjects,
Hmm.
although I've always been very bad in studies, but as a layman and having this kind of common sense, the foundation of science and the foundation of spirituality, as we understand, is doubt, right?
Yes, very
It
nice.
starts with questioning.
Exactly.
That's why
Exactly.
great scientists value a thinking of a child more than a thinking of an adult, right? Because children will, if you'll tell them, they'll just give you more questions, more questions, more questions.
Yes.
So
So, yeah, this is what exactly I was coming to. See, for example, Newton, how he discovered
mm,
apple fell down, the famous story, which is what made him think that how did the apple fall down? So that
mm,
questioning made him discover the law of gravity, isn't it? Now, that does not mean that the law of gravity did not exist before Newton
right.
discovered, right? So Newton
Mm,
happened to discover it, or the theory
yeah.
of relativity, what Einstein discovered. And this is exactly what is happening now. What was mentioned in spirituality
Mm,
is being proven now because the scientific tools are coming up.
mm,
Now, a very simple example you take, there's a very famous example which is given that people believe, like humanity believe that the earth is flat, right? Till I forget the name of the person who discovered that the earth is actually a globe, right? Now, if you see the ancient texts, the script, the sculptures which are there in the temples,
mm,
there is a Varaha avatar of Mahavishnu, which is called a Varaha avatar, which is like a form of a pig, a boar,
yeah.
wild boar. And these are like more than 5,000 or maybe 10,000 years back, those statues which are there.
Mm,
And in that, the earth is shown as a globe. It is not shown as a flat thing,
yeah.
right? So it means that the sages at that time knew that the earth is not a flat structure.
Mm,
Science happened to discover just a few hundred years back, isn't it? So
right.
that is something which is very amazing, which I used to get amazed that there are so many things which science is still in the mode of discovery. And this questioning is a basis. In Vedanta, especially, we are encouraged. You question. So that's how my journey also began. You question. You question life and you come to an answer. And all the answers which are given in Vedanta, from where like my journey has begun, had begun in the past, is all based on questioning. There's a
Mm,
whole conversation between the student and a teacher, and the student would ask questions, and the teacher would answer in the best possible way. And then it leads to experience. It's like exactly like science. In science, you create a concept, right? Somebody imagines, somebody
mm,
believes, right, that maybe this is a possibility, right? You believe that there is a possibility, and then you create an experiment, and then you do an experiment and prove or disprove, which is
mm,
exactly what is in spirituality also. So you
mm,
take, for example, you take that, I is there a possibility that I can be blissful in a very stressful situation?
mm,
And you do an experiment and see, use a tool and see how it is going to help you. You take a pill, which is available in science, and see what helps you better and what
mm,
lasts you longer. So things like these have been done and are being done more and more to prove both the things. So both eventually are going to help. So certain things from science you require in the physical world
yeah.
to help you, and there are also equal number of important things which are going to help you from the spiritual aspect. So both
Mm,
eventually are part of the whole our entire universe.
right.
Everything is going to help us in that way.
Yeah. Then this contradiction comes when we start testing spirituality with science. That someone might say that if it's science is telling like this is bullshit. So
Hmm.
someone might say just because science is not developed at that level right now, and when it will be developed, you will know that I was true. So
Yeah.
how you will deal with that?
So it's, see, eventually a very very important thing which a point which you're making is your faith and your
Hmm.
own experience. So if you see, our entire life is based on faith and experiences, right?
Uh,
Very simple. People who argue and tell, okay, faith is something, you have a blind faith on something, and that's how spiritual people or gurus or masters, they, create that and grow and make
right.
money that way.
Yeah.
So here, what I'm saying from my understanding, and fortunately to have those kinds of guides who actually made me question. They never asked anything of me. They
Hmm.
only wanted to give. And then they
Hmm.
are told that, you question. What, even if you are giving, you question. Even if you are experiencing something, you question.
Yeah.
Now, as you start experiencing, you develop a faith that this is what is correct for you. And that
Hmm.
experience is going to help you to have faith in what, for example, for me, it is a spirituality or
Hmm.
the spiritual process or the spiritual guide who help me to experience something which
Hmm.
I am not able to experience through anything in the world.
Ah,
That produces encouragement, and then you want to pursue that. And
right.
also, having learned
Hmm.
that in the world, whatever I've been chasing, it's not been able to give me that permanent happiness. There's
Hmm.
always a end point. You take anything, you take the best person who can love you, there'll be an end point
Hmm.
to it. It'll get saturated, right?
Yeah. One of the thing which hit me listening to you is that what science is doing outwardly,
Hmm.
spirituality is doing inwardly. Using the
Yes.
same method, you have to go inward, right?
Yes.
So, can you? I think like it will be very insightful if you can give in a simplest version what that scientific method looks like, and like that, like in a language which we can use inwardly as well.
Yes. So when you say going inwardly, it's like say practically, if you let's take an example.
Hmm.
When you love somebody,
Hmm.
okay, in practical world, that when you are there physically with that person, it is fine. Now, when you are back and when you are away from that person, what
Hmm.
do? You ruminate, you
Right.
think,
Yeah.
you go into the experiences. So what do? You're going inward and experiencing that love, and that gives you so much happiness. You smile. People who are in love, they keep smiling for no reason.
Yeah.
So that is an inward experience
Hmm.
of giving a simple example for a practical understanding. In spirituality, when you are doing, for example, any meditative process, meditation, when you start, or there are many things. Even reading a spiritual or a knowledge based book can take you deeply within as
Hmm.
you discover the truths of life. So going inwardly is basically experiencing something which is beyond your faculties of your five senses and the mind,
Okay.
is what I would tell in a simple way. What your The way we are designed, this is like purely from science and spirituality, combining a Vedanta and the uh, science or medical science. We
Hmm.
have five senses, right?
Yeah.
Of seeing, smelling, tasting, hearing, and feeling, right? Now, these five senses are constantly moving out. You see, the eyes wants to see always good things. Ear wants to see hear everything good. Tongue,
Hmm.
there is a no end to it.
Hmm.
It always wants to taste. That's why the food restaurants keep
Yeah.
multiplying. And smell and feeling. These are constantly going outside. And the mind is like we can talk for hours together. What the mind can do.
Yeah. That's why I was like, why I asked this question is because it's very easy to mind to delude you, right? Just to
Yeah,
find the confirmation of what you're listening or reading or
yeah,
having. You're just searching for that thing, so you can
yeah.
find that. And also how to like get to more depth and break these barriers which constantly our mind creates, right?
Yeah, yeah. So this brings to a very important part that we are not just this physical body, this five senses and the mind.
Hmm.
There is something beyond these things.
Hmm.
So one of the things is we call it buddhi, intellect.
Hmm.
It's a faculty like a part of the mind, you can tell in a broad category,
Yeah.
but it is a faculty which enables you to decide what is right and wrong. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, let's not delve into that because it will get complicated. To understand in a simple ways, we are not just this physical body and the mind. There is something beyond,
Hmm.
which is where spirituality will take you.
Hmm.
And that something beyond is that source of what example I just gave you, the experience of love. When you feel that you love somebody, that comes not from the mind, it comes from your heart. When you
Right.
say love from the heart. So there
Yeah.
is some kind of a source within you which is enabling you to get these higher experiences.
Hmm.
And the same source in understanding of pure science, pure spirituality. Now I'm coming to pure spiritual understanding, is that we all have that source within,
Hmm.
that supreme intelligence, which is taking care of the entire universe,
Yeah.
that itself exists within us.
But using
Spirituality,
science, what you're saying is a hypothesis for me, right?
yeah, exactly. So that's why I
That's
said
what.
it is pure spirituality. It's
Yeah. For you, it might be experience, but for me, you have just given me a kind of
a hypothesis.
hypothesis.
Yes, yes, yes.
So how
Yes.
that
So
works? Like now I have this hypothesis. So what now?
yes, exactly. So now, just like in science, when there's a hypothesis, what would you do? You would experiment, right? And you have to be very patient. You
Uh,
cannot tell, if you see
right.
how copper
You can't
sulfate,
rush.
how copper sulfate crystal is created. If anybody is who will be listening, in our school, we were taught when a copper sulfate, you put that two solutions, and you have to wait. You have to wait in the pipette. That last drop when it comes, then the crystals get created. You have to be
Hmm.
very patient. And I still remember that was the first lesson learned from, like, as a child, that you have to be patient. You
Hmm.
can't just pour and the crystals get created.
Hmm.
So in science, when we do experiments, there's so many thousands of examples where a scientist failed multiple times. The electric bulb, I think Edison who discovered electric bulb, I forget the
Hmm.
name, sorry, maybe wrong. He failed, it's said that more than 100 times,
Hmm.
and he never gave it up. So in the
Hmm.
same, now the reason why I'm telling you is that please also have patience when you are coming to spiritual things.
Yeah.
People lose patience. People want to, go to somebody and tell that, give me that experience right now. And if you're not giving, I will do window shopping. I will go to the next person. So
Hmm.
that is what happens. So taking this hypothesis that you have that source, that supreme intelligence within you, right? Who is actually enabling you to do everything, keeping you alive. If I tell you this as a hypothesis, you try to explore that. Just like any other science or any other child, a small child will explore, right? And
Hmm.
come to it without having any bias. Again, that is another very important. The moment you have a bias, it will create a block. So give some time. There are methods which I can guide anybody who's interested, or even to you or
Yeah.
anyone who wants. You have to be patient. So you have to give time, and
Hmm.
time will come when you will
No,
know.
let's get into that. Like, what are those methods, as you call them, or profound tools or practices you have discovered in your journey?
Yeah. So, see, if you see from the ancient texts, there are a huge amount of, they're called spiritual practices in general,
Hmm.
which are available there. If you go to internet, you will find a huge amount of them. So, one of the commonest tool which is experimented in scientifically in a huge way are the meditation techniques, right?
Hmm.
So, like if it was a science audience, I would give different kinds of meditation techniques, because meditation techniques are, there are some 4 5 different kinds where you can focus on something, or you can passively experience something, and all these will give different results if you are going to experiment and see the results. So
Hmm.
we are not getting into that, just understanding that meditation is a practice which will help you to go inward, right?
Okay.
Breath watch, simple tool. Breath watch, just observing your breath, and believe me, right now I can make you experience it. If you just close your eyes
Hmm.
and just focus on just your natural flow of your breath, breathing in and breathe, just observe. You don't have to control. Believe
Yeah.
me, in like few seconds you will become completely calm. You want to do it? You can just experiment.
Yeah, I've done that. It makes
Yeah.
you a bit more aware of your surroundings, a bit more
Yes.
present of your own body, of your own what's going, like of your own thoughts and all that. So
Yes.
I've sensed this sense of awareness
Yes.
when you focus on your breath, and you can't think too much and focus on your breath at the same time. So this is the another contradiction. We can do that if you want to.
Yes, yes, yes. So that is a very important thing which you said. I'm glad that you have already experimented, so you know. If you
Hmm.
try to focus and then do it like forcibly, your mind will become super active
Hmm.
and you will not be doing the right breath path. So it has to be natural
Hmm.
and it takes time. So again, you have to be really patient with yourself. In fact, breath watch or just observing your breath itself is a meditation, very, very powerful
Okay.
meditation.
Huh.
But it takes a huge number of years, I would say years and years of
Hmm.
practice to do this. Instead, there are other meditation tools which are more powerful because you also, as you said, the mind becomes very active. The mind will take its the moment you try to go inward,
Hmm.
first hurdle will be your mind
Huh.
because the
Right.
mind is designed and conditioned
Hmm.
from childhood itself to constantly move out. You're constantly moving out. Think, do this, that. Nowadays, phone. The moment you are idle, you pick up the phone. Mind cannot like remain quiet even for a second. That's how the mind has become.
Yeah.
So, in meditation, what you are trying to do is calm that mind and go within.
Hmm.
Moment you do that, the mind is going to get challenged
Yeah. Right.
and it will get hyperactive.
Hmm.
Example I'll give you. Just now, just close your eyes. Just close your eyes. Don't think of a monkey. Okay, open your eyes. What happened?
Picture of monkey appeared
Yes.
the moment you said monkey.
So that is how the mind is very, very tricky. The moment you tell mind something, the mind will exactly do the opposite. So that's why in a
Yeah, that's
spiritual,
where like this positive thinking breaks down, right? If you're
yeah,
thinking about something positive, so what I've observed, like this, every positive thought in it also has a kind of a seed of a negative thought. You can't
yeah.
think of that I'm strong, so automatically the brain will be okay, I'm weak, that's why I'm thinking I'm strong.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, 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 very, very true, very right. Yeah, yeah.
Brain is
So,
this, mind is this
yeah,
like crazy monkey, what they
yeah,
call in Buddhism, right?
yeah, yeah. Monkey mind. Yes.
Monkey mind.
So you need to leave the practice is that you leave the mind as it is. The moment the negative thought comes, you become an observer. You just observe it,
Hmm.
which will also come with practice. You become an observer of yourself.
Ah, right.
Here I'm making a little deep statement, but that is how your journey of life will become, where you are just
Okay.
observing yourself.
Hmm.
And who is observing is the big question, is where the actual exploration starts
Hmm.
of there is something which is observing your own self. And that's something, again, as we gave the word supreme intelligence, or
Right.
you call it any name,
Yeah, don't
is
get
a
lost
source.
in words.
So it is a source, some source which is there within you, which is enabling you to think. And
Hmm.
that same source is also now watching you thinking.
Hmm.
So
Right, right, right.
move the focus from this mind to that source is
Hmm.
what exactly happens during meditation. So in meditation, when you're exploring, you try to go within, beyond your physical body, your senses, and your mind. Understanding very well that when I'm trying to cross the mind is going to jump because mind is not going to allow you to cross. It is so powerful. And that is where your patience and practice will help you.
Hmm. You're also telling
So,
me about some research which you have
yes,
done.
yes,
Can you talk a little
yes,
about that? How was
yes,
that
yes.
and what exactly you discovered in that?
Yes. So, as we were just talking about spiritual practices, one is like the breath watch we spoke about, meditation we talk about. Meditation are different kinds. Maybe at some other time we can talk about meditation,
Yeah.
different kinds of meditation. What you're in the part of the organization whom I belong to is Maitri Bodh Parivar, and organize the main the lead or the founder visionary is Mitra Sut, and he has a special gift of something called as giving Shakti Prabha. It's called Maitri Shakti Prabha, which is a energy transfer process. It's a transformational energy transfer
Okay.
process. So through his grace, through his like completely because of him, there is a this process happens. So we are also doing it online now. So
Hmm.
in this, you do a small meditative process, and this energy is transferred to the person. So we were very curious because a bunch of us doctors who are part of this, we wanted to experiment and see. I mean, Dadashriji had been a doctor in the past, so he wanted to see what exactly happens in our body. So with that, we did a pilot study, exploratory study, a few years back, where we had a control group also. So in the main group, what we did is we evaluated the effects of Shakti Prabha on the brain by doing functional MRI. Then we also did SPECT scan. SPECT is single photon emission computerized tomography, which uh, detects brain oxygenation or circulation of brain,
Hmm.
perfusion. And the third part which we did was neuropsychology, right? So
Okay.
we did these three tests before. Then one group received Shakti Prabha, and then we again repeated the same test after 3 months.
Hmm.
The other control group was in the control group also we did before, and then we gave them a simple exercise to walk every day, and then we again did the same three tests for both the groups, and then we saw what difference we saw before and after. Right. So in the functional MRI of the brain, what we found, this was a special MRI called as resting state function MRI, in which we detect the brain connectivity. So our brain
Okay.
has lots of connecting pathways, huge number, and there are different hubs which are present. So
Hmm.
what we found is that one area of the brain called a precuneus, that got a very heightened connection after Shakti Prabha, in the Shakti Prabha group. And this precuneus, so we did not know. See, we just went like an hypothesis and an experiment. We did not know what
Hmm.
we will find. Later on, we found that a huge amount of data is available that precuneus is supposed to be the emotional hub in the brain, which controls many other centers.
Okay.
It's the center of meta awareness.
Hmm.
So your awareness of awareness, that center is supposed to be in the precuneus. So that got increased connection. Then in the SPECT scan, what we found is that the frontal lobes of the brain, they got increased perfusion, oxygenation. So, frontal lobes, we all know human beings, the frontal lobes are the ones which, differentiate
Hmm.
us from animals,
Yeah.
because we have huge frontal lobe, which helps us to take higher functions. And in neuropsychology, what we found that all the participants who received Shakti Prabha, they were able to improve their cognition. Their cognitive abilities
Hmm.
improved, their emotional health improved, their mental health scales improved. So all these things were found. And the other group, we found some other things, but these results told us that Shakti Prabha does have an effect on the brain. Basically, a spiritual practice, a very powerful spiritual practice, which helps. So I would really like request, if anybody is interested, can connect to me, or we have our website, maitriboard.org. They can connect there. This is freely available online. Now the COVID is over, so we also do it physical sessions all over the world.
Yeah, definitely. I'll
So
link. You can just send me the link, and I'll link everything in the description. So, how does it
yes,
looks like? Like it sounds like somebody's like showing his hands and giving
yeah,
kind of a beam to like giving
yeah,
shakti to somebody. So,
yeah.
so how it looks
Yeah,
like?
good question. Yeah. So physically, it is done with the touch of the hand. It
Hmm.
is done with the touch of the hand,
Hmm.
but there's a whole process. It's not just you just touch what you see in the generally in on the web series or something. If you must
Yeah.
have seen, there's a whole process. So
Hmm.
it's a very deep meditative transformational energy transfer process. Is what we describe. We do online through divine light. It's done online. So it's a process. Now again, one big question might come to somebody who is very scientific, like I'm
Hmm.
just thinking as a science person now, that how does it happen,
Yeah.
or what does it happen?
Yeah.
So if you see, there is a whole science of energies. Okay. In the environment, even the earth has a certain frequency in which it vibrates.
Hmm.
It's called as Schumann's resonance, right? So if you see, there's a whole energy science which is a huge upcoming field now,
Hmm.
and very beautiful. You must have sensed some people when you sit, you will get very positive and nice vibes.
Yeah,
Certain
a
people you
very
feel,
good friend of mine, she said to me, like, she's also a coach. So she said,
yeah,
like, this energy healing and this whole discovery of this, how energies work, it's kind of a future of medicine.
yes, yes, yes.
Mm.
One aspect of medicine, definitely, yes, exactly. Yeah. So this is what the point which I wanted to cover is holistic healing. When we
Mm.
tell science and spirituality to come together, a very
Mm.
important aspect is you don't just treat the physical body or maybe some part of psychology.
Mm.
Holistic healing is where you take into account the entire being, because we are not just this physical
Right.
body and the mind. We are something beyond. So the health of the entire, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual
Mm.
is what is needed, and which is what the future will be.
Yeah. So as I focus a lot on, I've told you a lot on mental health and mental well-being of the human mind.
Yes.
So how can we use this collaboration or merger of science and spirituality when it comes to mental health?
Yeah, very amazing. This is where actually I have worked hard to uh, find tools and methods where spiritual
Mm.
tools can be added. I'm
Yeah.
using the word tools. The tools is not the right word, but then techniques or methods can be added. Spiritual methods can be added along with the science. So
Mm.
see, if you see the uh, actual data of mental state or the mental health related issues which are there currently, they have like really, really gone up. Suicide rates have increased. The number of people undergoing different kind of mental disorders have significantly increased, especially during the COVID times. And there are enough WHO and other data available, which you can just Google and check. And somehow this is going to be more and more because of the way that things are uncertain, right? Because of the economy going down and many, many things which are post-COVID, which has happened, and it will take some time.
Mm.
A very important part is what to do about it. A lot of
Right.
people are in denial that, I'm undergoing some kind of an issue mentally. They feel that
Mm.
they are fine. So that is first thing is acknowledge you can take scientific help. So there are enough number of psychologists and scientific methods which are available, which are helpful. But as a doctor, I have seen that it has definitely a limitation, because beyond certain level, one does not go into the real nitty-gritty and the depth of it. What is provided is giving pills, right? So eventually you give multiple medications. People are on five different medications for different medical disorders.
Yeah.
Somehow the root cause is not actually addressed, is what I would say from understanding. Though it is really amazing, as a doctor I'm saying a huge amount of research and good things are coming up even in
Mm.
mental issues. So for example, you take stress, depression, loneliness, these are
Yeah.
like schizophrenia, these are like broad categories, anxiety. Okay, all these are disorders which are currently there in many people.
Mm.
What one can do is take scientific help, whatever you can, add a spiritual practice.
What do you mean?
Adding a spiritual practice of simple thing, doing a meditation. Give time to yourself 20 minutes every day,
Mm.
half an hour every day,
Yeah.
right? Start with that. Half an hour every day. See, half an hour is like in the 24 hours that we have is nothing. People are so busy. You can give 20 minutes at least, right? So in that 20 minutes, there are many things which can be done. Different things can be done. Which again, you can, like, anybody who's interested can connect to me. I can help. So see, every time it will not be the same thing for everyone. It may
Yeah.
be different things for different
This
people.
is one of
Just like,
the thing which I think is what we need is not just categorize somebody, like, this person is depressed, right? This person has
yeah,
anxiety, and just treat them in a similar way, right? People are very this as a scientific person, like a human being is this very complex being with all sorts
yes,
of aspects, all sorts of dimensions to his life. So
yes.
I think, like, the future of medicine might be very individualistic in nature, and which like how coaching is done, right? You can't
Hmm.
coach the like thousands of people at the same time. Coaching is done one by one. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
So,
in US, I think like they give only 15 minutes, kind of like doctors just talk to patients like for 15 minutes and then they prescribe
yeah.
something. So,
Yeah. 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 So in a way, it is still individualistic. I mean, most doctors
mm,
are trained, even if they, like as a doctor, I'm saying, so,
yeah.
doctors, that it's like years and years of training. You get that intuitiveness where you know that, just by seeing
Got
a
it.
patient, because of years of training, you know that exactly what this
Mm-hmm.
is about. And we are all aware, all doctors are aware. I'm like taking the side of doctors to know that every patient is different. This is how
Yeah.
training begins. You
Uh-huh.
cannot give the same pill to all of them. If that
Hmm.
was the case, then general practitioners would be, only be working. So
Hmm.
specialists are meant for knowing very niche things, and there's a huge amount of training to do that. So
Hmm.
the point is that in the same way, spiritually also, every person is different. Every person has one's own baggages, one's own conditioning,
Hmm.
one's
Hmm.
own
Hmm.
blocks within. So therefore, the spiritual practice will also be different. What is to be done,
Hmm. No, but
and
do you think like uh, when it comes to doctors, they treat patients in this more holistic way, which you talk about, or they just see a biological aspect or a psychological aspect of a human being and just uh, treat in that aspect of that person?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
no
yeah.
matter
No, no,
how
no.
much medicine you provide me, if I have a toxic household and I'm getting harassed all day, no medicine is gonna help me, right?
Exactly,
Like
exactly.
for
Yeah, yeah,
example.
yeah. True, true. So the doctors are trained for years together, but
Hmm.
eventually it is only treating the physical body and maybe to a certain extent the mind. You are right. Beyond that, that holistic aspect is missing. See, there are certain doctors who we call them, they have a healing touch, right?
Yeah.
Something is different about those doctors.
Right.
Maybe they may not be as highly intelligent as other doctors, okay, or
Hmm.
knowing all the things in the internet as, but then there is something very nice and good you feel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm very sure everybody who is hearing this will be able to accept. So
Hmm.
when you know that's something which is beyond that healing touch, what you call is the
Hmm.
spiritual aspect without calling it spiritual. So holistic is something which should be the future, and it will head towards that
Hmm.
somewhere down the line.
Yeah, this is a whole another topic, and I would love to go into more depth someday. Like
Yes.
go inside this rabbit hole of mental health and medicine and doctors and how this whole scenario in India is. So
Yeah.
it's a fascinating topic.
Yeah.
I'm glad I found someone with whom I can go inside that
Yeah.
rabbit hole. And so you're also a kind of a Vedanta scholar. So I would love if you could. You're not a
Yeah.
scholar. What?
I'm a student. I'm a student. I
Okay,
can
okay.
never ever tell you a scholar. Yeah, I was just a student
Yeah.
because the more I read Vedanta, I realized that I'm just like even to call a student is like I'm a KG class student. I would say it's like
Hmm.
such a depth.
No,
Knowledge
that's
is such
more.
a
That's even more beautiful. So
yeah.
you're a sorry. You're a to correct myself. You're a Vedanta student. So
Yes. Yes.
maybe we can end this podcast with what greatest insight you have got from your like more than 2 decades of study.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's very difficult to cover in like few lines, the whole gist. But what I would say is that the word Vedanta itself, is, if you break it up in Sanskrit, Ved means knowledge
Yeah.
and Anta means end. Vedanta is end of all knowledge. Anta is
Wow.
end. So the meaning itself says it all, that it's the end of all knowledge. So
Right.
whatever that you ever want to seek in life, you will eventually get from, if you are seeking through knowledge, through the path of knowledge. So that is the power which Vedanta has. So through that understanding of what I have experienced and learned through the Vedanta. So
Hmm.
first to understand is that it's a path of knowledge, right? It's knowledge based, and that knowledge helps to make you understand that you're not just this physical body and the mind.
Yeah.
There is something beyond.
Hmm.
And that supreme intelligence is something which is the truth. There's a higher truth to life.
Hmm.
So when you connect to that higher truth, when you experience that higher truth, that will be the end of all our miseries and suffering. And that will be the ultimate, like the final state which one should aspire, or that is the final purpose of life, is to experience that highest truth, which is what path of Vedant or the knowledge path will take you. It creates a very high and sharp intellect or
Hmm.
buddhi to know what is right from wrong. See, right now, our mind is so powerful, it confuses you all the time. With the path of Vedant, you are sure that this is right for you. It gives that clarity of life and the purpose, and it takes you towards that goal. So I would say that through whatever I have learned, the last thing is that know that there is something very supreme within you. Try to connect to that, try to discover that. Enjoy everything in life. Vedant doesn't tell you that, you become a renunciate, take sannyas, or leave the world.
Yeah.
You can have as much of enjoyment is there, which I'm specifically telling because as a myth that spiritual people should leave things. You cannot have
Hmm.
family, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. It is nothing like that. You can have everything. Only thing you need to do is connect to that truth or to that supreme intelligence or that source, and the life becomes a wonderful and beautiful journey.
Hmm.
Or a whole, roll of, you will take in whatever life, you will enjoy all the challenges, all the good things, and you will be in a very profound and happy state. So that is what I got to experience again because of the grace of my guide Dadashiji, my divine friend.
You are doing kind of similar to what he's doing right now. You're kind of here as a guide and a helper. So thank you so much for whatever you're doing and whatever journey you're on. You are on this fascinating quest. So can you talk a little bit about that, and also where people can find you on the web?
Yeah. So again, I mean, thank you that you're saying that I'm doing similar things, but I think that I'm like maybe doing 5% of what he's doing. Actually, because his vision is
You're too
for,
humble.
I know I'm actually telling, his vision is to transform the entire humanity. So
Yeah.
he
Same here. My
actually
vision is also that.
good, good. So you are doing his work there. So we're all doing his work basically. Yeah. So what I would tell to everyone is that just enjoy life, try to be a good human being, a very very basic thing. Forget about big terms like
Hmm.
spirituality and divine.
Yeah.
Just if you try to be a good human being, which is what again I learned from Dada Shriji, that just try to be a good human being. And good human being is a person who understands another person.
Hmm.
It's not like creating that goodness, but just simple things like one who is understanding another person, one who is serving, one who is helping somebody. Try to help as many people as possible, and take care of nature. The nature is very important. The earth is very very important because there is something. The reason why this is an important part, because one of the things, like scientifically, the COVID pandemic,
Yeah.
itself is a kind of a phenomenon because of the earth. So we need to take care of
Hmm.
nature, because as humanity we have harmed nature a lot. So
Right.
we are a part of nature. So we need to be in unison, work with nature all the time, and take care of everything in the nature, in the environment. So that
Oh,
is
that's
what
a
I would
beautiful
say.
message. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where they can find you on the web if somebody wants to
Yeah. So
connect with you?
yeah, so I have my Instagram, Mitra.Sut, which I'm usually active on that. And I have a same Facebook page called Mitra.Sut. So you can DM me, Mitra Mitra.Sut. Sut.
Hmm.
So that's my Instagram ID. And I would be very happy if anybody else wants to connect to me for spiritual practices, as well as any personal, any kind of guidance which is needed. some few things which, because of the way your topic is mental health, if anybody has any feeling of negativity, suicidal, or whatever, please, please,
Right.
please immediately connect to me. I can help. We have a platform where one can counsel and help. So that is something what I would like to tell, that be happy and enjoy life.
Yeah. I highly encourage the person to do that. And I think your work is very valuable in these days, what you're doing. And in my eyes, it's more valuable than most of the what spiritual teachers are doing or what scientists are doing. You're kind of, as I told you earlier, you're kind of bridging this gap between the two. So with your work, I can get the value and get the utility of what humanity has produced, as has explored till now, not getting blinded by anything, right? As a youngsters, we don't want to get uh,
Hmm.
blinded by anything, so we are very resistant to all those things. So that's why I think like your work is very on to reach. Like I can
Thank
grab it, but when it comes to listening to like core spiritual teachers, so we just miss the boat. We don't understand like what they're trying to say. So but the language you use, it's more convincing, and it's more like we can understand what you're saying.
you.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
so it's more
thank you.
practical, as you're saying. Yeah. So, so thank you so much for what you're doing, and keep doing. If you need any help in any way or form, I can be of service. So
Thank you.
just let me know. And it was a fascinating conversation. Let's do this again sometime. I would love to have
Yes,
you on the show again.
yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I must thank you also for this opportunity. And it was really wonderful talking to you, Shan. Yeah.